Let's take a look at problem 22.7a. We're talking counterbalancing errors. This is when you make a mistake, and even if you don't do anything to fix it, the mistake fixes itself the next year. So you forgot to accrue a salary payable, so you missed recording debit salary expense, credit salary payable. Well, that mistake works itself out when you just go and pay the salary. The timing's off, but the mistake works itself out of the system. That's what we're talking about with counterbalancing error. It's an error that happens one year, clears off the next, and so 2 years later there's not like nothing happened, but those 2 years are wrong. There's a timing error across those 2 years. That's a counterbalancing error. Enderby Hardware uses a periodic inventory system. While preparing its December 31st 2031 financial statements, Enderby discovered the following errors, all originating in 2030. So here we are, the end of 2031, and we spot a bunch of errors from last year, a year where we've closed the books, we can't go back and fix it, and we're going to be asked to fix it now. So no corrections have yet been recorded. Income taxes are ignored. So there's 3 errors, and for each error, we're asked, tell me the net income effect. What's the effect of net income? Is it overstated or understated? And, it's going to be like overstated in 2030, understated in 2031, or understated in 2030 and overstated in 2030. Like, if it's over in one year, it's going to be under in the next, and vice versa. So we'll have to figure out what is the net income effect. We're going to analyze the error and say, okay, other than net income, what else was overstated or understated? And there will be things overstated and or understated. An optional but helpful step is, what journal entry should they have made in 2030? If they on December 31st, 2030 looked at this and said, oh, our books are still open, we can fix this error, what would they do to fix it? And that's going to help us with our actual error correction. And this is like the real journal entry. And this is important. So this optional step just helps me get to this one. Okay, let's jump into it. Let's do the first error. Accrued salaries of $35,000 at December 31st were not recorded. Okay, so we failed to accrue some salaries. The salaries got paid, of course, in January 2031, and the salaries and expense was recorded at that time. So what's happening here? We didn't record December 31st, 2030, some salaries to be accrued, some salaries expense. So what does that mean for net income? It means my expenses in 2030 were too low. I didn't record it, right? So I overstated net income because I understated my expenses. My expenses are too low, and therefore my profit's too high. Now in 2031, the opposite is true. I recorded that expense in 2031 because when I paid the salary, I recorded the expense, but that expense belonged to 2030. So in 2031, my expenses are too high, and therefore my profits are too low. My profits are understated. So what accounts in 2030 are overstated or understated? Well, salaries expense we didn't record, so that's understated, and salaries payable also understated. We don't need like 1 O, 1 U. We can have 2 U's, 2 O's. It's going to be 2 accounts every time, but they can both be understated, they can both be overstated, or we can have 1 of each. So there you go. Salaries expense is understated, salaries payable is understated. Okay, optional but helpful. What should we have done in 2030? If we spotted this error, if we caught it, we didn't. But if we did, what would we do? Well, pretty straightforward. We just do the journal entry. Debit salaries expense, credit salaries payable. I've forgotten the amount. It was for $35,000. And that's what we would have done on December 31st, 2030, if we had the wherewithal to catch the mistake. But we didn't have the wherewithal to catch the mistake. This didn't happen. So we're trying to fix it a year late, a day late, $1 short. How do we fix it? Well, there's already been a kind of a second error, right? In 2031, we paid the salary. So we went debit salary expense, credit cash. Had we done this properly, we would have gone debit salaries payable, credit cash, but we didn't. Okay, so how to fix it? Well, if you, in the prior year, should have debited an expense and you didn't, that closes to retained earnings. So we're going to debit retained earnings for $35K to fix this. And interestingly, remember what we said. We said in 2031, we recorded a salary expense that didn't belong in 2031. So we got to get rid of that salary expense. So we credit salary expense, 35K. And what we're going to find is this little trend in these error correction entries. Let me find my pen. I've lost my cursor. We're going to find if we debit an expense here, we're going to tend to credit it in the correcting entry. And had we credited an expense or a revenue account here, we're going to debit it in the correcting entry. So you're going to see that trend over and over again. Keep your eyes peeled for it. And let's see how we do. Let's carry on with the next. So next one, number 2. The December 31st, 2030 physical count included a block of goods twice, overstating ending inventory by 60K. The 2031 physical count has been completed and cost of goods sold has been recorded. Okay, so we overstated our ending inventory. What does that mean for net income? Well, if our ending inventory is too high, it means our cost of goods sold was too low. And if our cost of goods sold is too low, it means our expenses are too low, lower than what they should be, and it means our profits are too high. Our net income for 2030 is overstated. And what does it mean for 2031? Well, 2031, again, our inventory for 2030 was overstated. So our beginning inventory in 2031 is overstated. So when I write it down at the end of the year to the actual, my COGS is too high, my profit's going to be understated. So you got to kind of puzzle your way through these ones. These are like error corrections. You really have to know how these accounts work, but that's how it works. Let's look at the 2030 error. So which accounts are overstated, which are understated? Okay, well, clearly it said inventory was overstated. And COGS, as a consequence, is going to be understated. Now, again, think about how periodic inventory works. You count your inventory, then you adjust your inventory level down to or up to whatever that level is, and you adjust it through cost of goods sold. So if my inventory is overstated, it means I didn't adjust COGS enough, and my COGS is understated. Okay, optional but helpful. What's the journal entry that would fix this? Debit COGS because it's understated, credit inventory because it's overstated. So had I counted things right and made this adjustment, I would have debited COGS, credited inventory to fix it, right? At the very last minute, if I said, oh, my inventory actually double counted that, debit COGS, credit inventory to put it right. So how am I going to put it right in 2031? Well, I always look at what was, there's generally going to be an expense here that's off or a revenue account. I look at the income statement account that was off, and COGS is our income statement account. And I go, all right, how do I fix that? Well, I can't go back in time and debit the expense. So I have to debit retained earnings to kind of catch that expense, 60K. And my credit, just as it was before, is to COGS. I take whatever the income statement account is and I credit it here. Now let's think about why that might be in 2031. So we can sort of follow that rule and just do it, and we've done it. Why do I credit COGS here? And the answer again comes from understanding how inventory works. Our inventory was 60K too high starting the year, right? And so when I write down my inventory at the end of the year, if it starts from a base that's 60K too high, it means when I write it down to its actual level at the end of the next year, my COGS is too high. And so my COGS in 2031 is too high. I got to credit it to make it lower. That's what's happening. Let's move on to the last one. This one's the trickiest. A 1-year insurance policy premium of $24,000 covering October 1st through September 30th, October 1st, 2030 through September 30th, 2031 was paid on October 1st, 2030 and expensed in full at payment. Okay, so immediately we should have said debit prepaid insurance, credit cash. We went debit insurance expense, credit cash. So mistakes made. No insurance entries at all have been made in 2031. Okay, so first of all, what's overstated or understated as far as net income? Well, I expense something I shouldn't have expensed, so my expenses are going to be too high. My profits, therefore, are too low. My profits, net income, is understated in 2030, overstated in 31. What accounts are in error here. Well, insurance expense is too high. And prepaid insurance is too low, right? I put something to insurance expense, it should have gone to prepaid insurance. Okay, so our insurance expense is overstated, our prepaid insurance is understated. How would I fix it in a journal entry? Well, if prepaid insurance is understated, to put it back to normal, debit prepaid insurance. If insurance expense is overstated, to put it back to normal, credit insurance expense. Now, this is the hard part of the problem, and this is sort of the puzzle your way through it. I like it. It's like solving a puzzle. Remember, we're saying, let's pretend we were fixing it on December 31st, not fixing it when it happened. We're fixing it on December 31st. Well, how much prepaid insurance do I have on December 31st? And the answer is not $24,000. That's what makes this a little bit tricky. The amount of prepaid insurance I have is, well, some of this has expired by December 31st. October, November, December, 3 months worth of prepaid insurance. That's 25%, $312, so it's a 12-month policy, or $2,000 a month. It's $6,000 of insurance that's expired. So my prepaid insurance is not worth $24,000, $6,000 of it's expired, $18,000 of insurance is left. So debit prepaid insurance, credit insurance expense for whatever prepaid insurance we have left. Again, remember what we had done. We had said debit insurance expense, credit cash. That was wrong. But by year end, actually $6,000 of insurance expense does exist, right? Because, 3 months has expired. So that's why we only credit our insurance expense by $18K rather than the full 24. That $6,000 of insurance expense actually is correct at the end of the year. So that one's a little weird to wrap your head around. Once you've got that, though, the final entry, pretty straightforward. We sort of follow the trend here. We look at which one of these is our income statement account. We're going to credit retained earnings for that amount, or debit retained earnings, whatever that was. So here it was a credit of insurance expense. Here we credit retained earnings for $18K, and then we debit the expense account, right? We sort of follow the trend we've been following. So we're going to debit insurance expense for $18K. Now, I hope it's clear why we're debiting insurance expense in 2031, and the answer is that other $18,000 of insurance, it expires in 2031, so that's the required adjustment. So there we go. That last one I get is a little trickier, but we've done it. Well done to us. We've completed 22.7a. If these videos help, I hope you'll help me with a thumb or a sub. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye for now. The next video in our series is right up here, and if you want a supercut of all of the videos in this series, that's the one down below.